Now, tomorrow, the 13th of June, marks International Albinism Awareness Day. This year, the day is celebrated under the theme United in Making Our Voices Heard. The day seeks to heighten efforts to inform and educate the public on the condition, as well as highlight some of the challenges faced by those living with albinism worldwide. Often those affected face discrimination, social exclusion, human rights violations, and sometimes even death in many communities where the condition is misunderstood through superstitions and misinformation, particularly on the African continent. Now, for more on this, we speak to founder of Albinism Advocacy Africa, who's also a mother to a child living with albinism, Lillian Mwende. Lillian, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us on our program this morning. Perhaps just talk to us about the significance of a day like Albinism Awareness Day.
Yeah, this day is very significant in our lives, and especially in these days, because we are creating awareness about albinism, a condition which is characterized by lack of melanin on the skin, and knowing that people with albinism in Africa and all over the world face a lot of discrimination and a lot of stigma. So this day is very important to us as parents and for people living with albinism, because the world will get to know them and the stigma will get to go down and everyone will get to appreciate people with albinism.
Now, I know that you are a mother of a child who's living with albinism, and I know that you are located in Kenya. Talk to us about the level of discrimination that people living with albinism often face in Kenya. I know that we have a focus on the African continent this morning, but perhaps you could give us more of a hyper-focus on the realities faced by Kenyans.
Yeah, it is. There's stigma. There's a lot of stigma, and people do not understand, especially when they see parents like us walking with our children on the streets. They do not understand that they are just people like them. You know, the stairs, you get to see that from the stairs. They stare a lot, and it makes us feel so bad. So those are the challenges that we face, and the children also, they face a lot of challenges, even in schools, the bullying and everything. Like my daughter, she goes to a regular school. I didn't want to take her to the school for the blind, so because she's a normal person, it's only that she doesn't have the skin melanin and she has challenges with her eyes, but she's completely normal, only that people do not understand that. I live with her, so I know that she's completely normal and she's very smart in school. She gets she becomes first in her class, by the way. So we face challenges because people look at them as if they are not human beings. Some of them referring to them as ghosts, which is not very fair. It doesn't feel good as a parent when your child is referred to as a ghost, or they have a Swahili word they use, zeru zeru. That means ghost in Kiswahili, which is not a very good word to use on a person.
I mean, you, of course, founded this advocacy group, probably because of the challenges that you've just listed for us that your child often faces as someone who's living with albinism. But perhaps talk to us about the barriers that you believe people living with albinism often are up against when it comes to just enjoying the full plethora of human rights that are afforded to them. I'd imagine that misinformation a lot of the time is a barrier to that. But do you find that sometimes the level of discrimination is so egregious that it really affects the quality of life for people living with albinism too?
Come up again, please.
Well, I just wanted to know if you could talk to us about some of the barriers that people living with albinism often are up against.
Yeah, now looking at the challenges, of course, that they face, they have barriers when it comes to working in offices and going for normal jobs. People just look at them. Most of the people want to see them in the streets like beggars or some people that are facing disabilities. So they cannot understand, or they cannot get the point that a person with albinism can work in a normal office or in some place. But these people with education, they are the smartest people that we have on earth. They can make the best teachers, the best doctors, but they face challenges. Even those people that are not living in town, persons with albinism that are living in the villages, most of the people look at them like charms. They can be used like charms for witchcraft in the villages. And it is not fair. So those are some of the challenges, the discrimination in places of work, in schools, everywhere. And because simply they face challenges with the sun, and they face challenges with the sun, so people look at them as if they are not normal people.
That reality, that there are people who look at people living with albinism as though they aren't real people and have even come up with derogatory terms in referring to them, does that create a sense of fear for you, Lillian, especially fear for your child, just in terms of their safety?
Like, for example, my daughter right now is 9 years old, and I've not got the courage to let her go to school alone or come back home alone. She cries a lot, "Mommy, I can do it. I'm big enough. I can come home alone." But there is that fear, especially now that we have elections coming up in Kenya, and most of these people that are getting elected, we hear that some of them use children. We've seen that in the news. People take away children, or they kidnap kids, and they use their body parts as charms in a witch doctor's place so that they can get their government positions. So we don't feel safe. Especially personally, I don't feel safe, and I don't know when I'll be able to feel safe. I think I'll be viewing my daughter as a child, as a baby, until she grows up. I don't know. I cannot face that. I cannot imagine that I can leave her to just walk the streets alone. So I see some grown-up girls and other young men with albinism walking in town. Maybe when she grows up, I'll be able to let go. But for now, I just have to be with her everywhere.
I mean, and this is really concerning, and it speaks to the quality of life question that I asked you earlier. If you feel as though your child can't freely walk in her community, in her surroundings, because you fear for her life. And I wonder what Kenyan authorities are doing about the safety of people living with albinism in the country. I mean, are there laws or resolutions or regulations that are out there that are very specific and intentional about the safety of people living with albinism?
Not much has been done yet, but we are on the road to that. We have the National Council for Persons with Disabilities that has a slot for persons with albinism. The much that they have done is giving out sun lotions for children with albinism and giving out hats, and they just have, they give the hats and the protective measures, but when it comes to their safety, it's not much, because we still have cases going on, though. Yeah, we are still working on the awareness part. Awareness is what matters a lot.
Yeah, I mean, talking about
what has been done.
Yeah, sorry, Lillian.
We have a few. Yes.
Sorry, I think we just lost connection for a second there. But talking about awareness, you know, a huge part of fighting back against misinformation is ensuring that people are educated around these issues. And while you can appreciate efforts at handing out, you know, sunscreen to people living with albinism, I think getting to the root cause of a problem is equally of paramount importance. How much education is being put out there so that people are no longer misinformed, and so that we can bite back at the stigma that is existing around this?
Yeah, we are using like tomorrow. That is on 13th. There will be various activities that will be used to create awareness. We have beauty pageants, which show that persons with albinism are normal people and they can participate in such activities. There will be a football tournament on Monday in some stadium in Nairobi. That one also will be showcasing people with albinism. Both teams will be having albinism, and they'll be trying to show the world that we can do it, we are normal people, and that albinism is beautiful. Nothing about being albino is out of the ordinary.
Well, thank you very much, Lillian, for coming onto the program and sharing your insights with us. That was the founder of Albinism Advocacy Africa, Lillian Mwende, who is also mother to a child living with albinism.